When I was 25 and a half, I started a podcast. The goal? To review some of the newest and the latest movies, along with some other stuff. With the help of my guests, I was able to do this, but there were dark forces tampering with my podcast, and with me. They called it an improvised podcast for some reason. I eventually found help in the form of myself. Yes, the me from a universe where the movies I reviewed got delayed. Apparently, my podcast made it to his universe. I know now that it is my duty, for the good of that universe, nay, the multiverse, to keep recapping and reviewing these movies, to hold listeners over until they could eventually see the movies as they were made in their world. For some reason, they come out differently in my world, but it's kind of entertaining that way. My name is Shinder, and this is Delayed Replay. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we talk about movies that came out in our universe that got delayed in that other universe. I'm your host, as always, Shinder, and joining me once again, you may have heard him a year ago on the episode that came out on my last birthday, the one that was on the Marvel Eternals episode. That is right, it is myself from that other universe. So, how's it going? Well, it's going alright. Cool to be here talking about a Marvel movie again. It's weird watching a movie in this universe after seeing how they came out in my universe. It's just, yeah, they're so different. It's like kind of hard for me to keep my head straight, you know? Yeah, I feel that. So for the sake of avoiding confusion between the two of us, I think this time what I'll do is I'll modify your voice in the edit. It might sound funny, but it'll be easier for the listener to distinguish between us. Does that sound cool with you?
Yeah, okay, that's fine. As long as people can understand me and tell us apart, like, that's cool.
Alright, great. So, yeah, as we kind of alluded to, this time we're talking about Thor, Love and Thunder. We just watched it today, November 5th, which is apparently Luke Hemsworth's birthday, and he is back in this as that actor who played Thor in Ragnarok. We'll get to him, and of course, like, the plot in general.
Remember the 5th of November. You know, that V for Vendetta thing.
Yeah, the V for Vendetta comics, I didn't enjoy as much as I thought I would. Like, I thought they were fine, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like, I think I prefer the film slightly. Like, I know that the themes are kind of different, like the context and everything, but yeah, like, there's no denying that it's still a thrilling film in places, but yeah, like, I'm not as big of a V for Vendetta fan as other people are.
Okay, yeah, so then you and I are on the same page, unsurprisingly, I guess. Well, first, what I wanted to ask was, what are your, well, maybe I already know because we agree on so many things, but just for the listeners, what has been your experience and opinions on the previous Thor movies? And I guess, how do you feel about the state of the MCU and the universe that you're from? I never know what to call your universe. Like, I think we were gonna call it Universe Delta at some point.
Probably shouldn't call it Delta. Might be kind of insensitive, because...
Oh, yeah, right. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I'm just calling it your universe for now.
Like, I've really enjoyed the previous Thor movies, before this one. Like, we'll get to this one, but yeah, watching the first Thor movie, it's kind of a simple story, you know? It's a classic hero's journey, like a cocky person, really arrogant, ends up being humbled by the end and becomes a hero, and I really liked that. Like, it's really simple. It's in New Mexico, so when they explored more of, the other realms, so like Asgard and beyond, like they widened the scale a bit in the sequel, Thor: The Dark World. I really liked that, and I remember when I watched The Dark World thinking that I liked it more than the first Thor movie. Like, I know people look back and say, oh, Thor: The Dark World is one of the worst MCU movies, it's pretty bad, but I never thought it was that bad. Like, yeah, Malekith, the Dark Elf, played by Christopher Eccleston, he should have been developed more. Like, he's such a forgettable villain. But that being said, Loki's scenes are always very good in the Dark World. Like, you gotta remember, this was a time when there was so much hype around Loki, like everyone was in love with him and whatever, and it got kind of annoying, but he really shined in this movie. Like, Tom Hiddleston, like, always props to him. He's just right for the character. I feel like I enjoyed the Dark World more than the average person. But I'm in agreement that Ragnarok was better than the first two Thor movies overall. Really good. I remember watching it in Scotland while studying abroad. But that being said, I've always thought that the humor I've only seen the movie once and when I saw it in the theater, so I don't know if my opinion would change if I rewatch it.
Oh, okay. So I'm not the only one who, like many of the Marvel movies, I've only seen once. Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess it's only us, but anyway, yeah, I've always thought that the first act of Ragnarok had many jokes that fell flat. There were maybe only two jokes that really made me laugh, like when Tessa Thompson comes out of the ship and like all drunk and falls, and there's another one. I'm trying really hard to remember what it was. It was when Loki is disguised as Odin and he sees Thor approaching. He's like, oh bleep, the SH word.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, thanks for saving me all the editing work. Even though I'm gonna be doing a lot of editing of your voice in this.
Oh yeah, for sure. But once Hulk enters the picture, like from that point onward, it's great. Like, I was just having a good time from that point onward, and it's not just that I'm a huge Hulk fan, it's just I found that from that arena scene onward, the jokes were better and the movie just flowed better for the most part. I would say the only exception being toward the end during the final fight when they kind of make a joke out of the possibility of Bruce Banner being dead. Like, I thought that was a bit too over the top. And also when Hulk fights the giant monster thing after, like, when he's not supposed to or whatever, and so it's, yeah, just a bit of whiplash there, something disrupting the flow. But overall, Ragnarok is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, like Taika Waititi, he really lifted the Thor brand after some audiences felt kind of cold after the first two, I guess. Like I don't know, but like the funny thing is, maybe I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but with Taika Waititi, I love his standalone films so much. Like the ones that feel more independent, like Eagle versus Shark, Jojo Rabbit, stuff like that. It like he has such a unique perspective and way of doing things. And so when it comes to his films, I honestly get more excited about his more indie feeling films or standalone films than these franchise films that he's part of. Like, yeah, I'm excited for what he's doing with Star Wars, and he's done a pretty good job on the Thor movies, but if there's ever news on another standalone film by him that's more grounded, like, I'm totally there. Like, it's just...
Oh, no, I'm in total agreement with you there. 2020 for my universe was the year without MCU films. It was kind of weird. So in 2021, we got the Disney Plus stuff finally, different order from what you guys got. And so WandaVision started off pretty well. I loved the mysterious sitcom aspect, and then it kind of didn't like when they started tying into the main Marvel stuff in the fourth episode, but then like there was that cameo that was really cool. I think you know the one I'm talking about, and it made me expect bigger things for the finale, which didn't come to pass. Yeah, I'm like not gonna spoil anything. I'm trying to be broad, but so the ending was kind of overwhelming, but overall pretty good show. Later we got Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and maybe not as surprising as WandaVision got sometimes, but it had some stuff that was pretty relevant to today, like some very important stuff, and you know what happens in the final episode, it's just so it's a good payoff. And then we get Loki, and that one, like the first episode, I remember thinking, oh, this is gonna be my favorite Disney Plus Marvel show, and then it fizzled out by the end. Like the finale was like exposition overload, and I was underwhelmed. And then somewhere around there, the Black Widow movie came out. I thought it was fine. I probably would have enjoyed it more if it had come out after Civil War. And the end credit scene just felt like lots of mood whiplash that kind of ruined it. It was unnecessary. And then we get Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings at some point. I think that's one of the better MCU films. It was very refreshing and didn't reference other Marvel things too much. And somewhere around there we got Marvel's What If. The animation took some getting used to, and it was, like some of the scenarios were really good. The Doctor Strange one felt too repetitive for me, and I just didn't like the overall premise, but for the most part, I enjoyed those episodes of that first season.
And you just got Eternals over there, right?
Yeah, I think the Eternals that we saw in your universe, the one we talked about last year, was definitely better than what came out in my universe. Like, it feels like a half-baked film. Characters don't really get developed very well. There are some pacing issues. The film takes risks, but they ring hollow because, like, again, I don't care about the characters that much. And, like, the stakes aren't really convincing. Like, I feel like the film could have been re-edited and rescored. Like, I do think having certain things in a different order, like the lore stuff, wasn't delivered in the best way more often than not. And like, if you get really great music, like that could have just made it even more engaging. Like the movie is more serious, or tries to feel more serious than other Marvel movies, but like because it tries that and doesn't really commit, many of the jokes fall flat. Yeah, so it's definitely my least favorite movie in the MCU of where I'm from.
Yeah, that's probably really disappointing, but I mean, I'm sure you've seen worse films.
Oh yeah, I've seen worse. Like, I'm not even gonna get into that. But anyway, do you want to start talking about Thor, Love and Thunder now?
Yeah, let's just dive right into it. So, last we saw Thor in Avengers Endgame, he was worthy again, or I guess rediscovered that he was worthy still. And you know, there's Mjolnir and Stormbreaker. It was cool to see those in that movie.
Oh, how cool was it when Captain America wielded Mjolnir? Like, that was so great.
Yeah, it definitely was a hype moment. And so he takes off with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Peter Quill, of course, wants to find the other Gamora, but by and large, Love and Thunder features the Guardians here and there, but for the most part, it's very centered on the storyline that we've seen throughout the Thor movies. Like, I feel like it never feels like a crossover movie or like too much of a Guardians movie. Like, I feel like it feels like Thor featuring the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, see, I was actually thinking the opposite. I feel like it feels half and half. Like, it's kind of like, how do I explain this? Like, Aquaman, Throne, or no, it's called Justice League Throne of Atlantis, where half the time it feels like an Aquaman movie, but the other half it feels like a Justice League movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I guess we have like similar but different thoughts on that, but sure. Okay. So they're traveling through space and Thor is trying to like discover who he is now, and he and Quill are constantly bickering and having this rivalry.
Oh yeah, like there's a moment where like they have that disco dance off. Like I couldn't remember like if there was ever a disco ball on their ship before, but apparently they have one now, and they're just like dancing to Staying Alive, and it's kind of I don't know, like the audience kind of got a laugh out of that, but like it was alright. It was a fine scene.
Yeah, like when they're like one-upping each other with their dance moves. Like there's even some dabbing involved.
Oh yeah, I was kind of wondering if that might date the movie.
I mean, I don't think that would be too much of a problem. Like, I don't know. It's like the "what are those" moment in Black Panther, right?
Oh yeah, that did happen.
I don't know. I like this rivalry. It can get fun. It is it's basically what one would expect.
Oh, see, I was thinking their rivalry was kind of annoying at times, and I would be like, bros, get along, okay? you know? But I will say I am glad that they didn't rely on it too much. Like, I know we jump around or whatever on this podcast, but it was really a grounded moment when, Thor, he's trying to contact his friends back on Earth, like, while they're traveling through space, and like, we don't see the other heroes in the message, but like, he comes out of the room, talks to the other Guardians, is like, I got a message about Jane Foster, my ex-girlfriend.
And this is like really heavy. Like, basically Jane is undergoing treatment because she has cancer, and you could like see the look in Peter Quill's eyes, and because his mom died from a terminal illness, like she had a tumor. It was like this very human moment where he was leveling with Thor and just being like really sincere and being like, hey, if you want to talk, like, we're here for you, like, type of thing. And it's really refreshing to see.
Oh, absolutely. It felt very well done. And Thor talks about their relationship, how like pretty much around the time of Age of Ultron, like pretty much during the movie, I guess it's between scenes, because like I remember when in Ragnarok they mentioned that he and Jane broke up. I was wondering, wait, when did this happen? Hasn't Thor been in space this whole time?
Oh yeah, but here they clarify that they broke up like toward the end of Age of Ultron, apparently, because like there's that flashback that shows them talking, and he's like, I need to go into space and find out more about these Infinity Stones, and I'm not sure when I'll be back. And like they're really reevaluating their relationship and being like, this, it's not gonna work, is it? Like long distance type of thing, or how are we gonna communicate with each other? We got so much going on. And so it seemed pretty mutual. Like you could tell that they both wish it didn't have to be this way, but they totally see that this is how it has to be. And then we also find out that Jane was initially caught in the snap, and so lots of whiplash there because, you know, she comes back after the snap, and then all of a sudden she's diagnosed with cancer, and it's like, it's so heartbreaking. Like, you know, you're back in this world, and then you might be out of this world. Like, she has that really emotional speech about that where, you know, it's very existential, and she was like, once I was back, I thought I had all the time in the world, but now, like, I don't know anymore. And it was also really great to have Eric Selvig visit her and have a nice heart-to-heart with her, and Kat Dennings, Darcy as well. And, you know, Darcy mentions, she alludes to the weird stuff that happened in WandaVision. But yeah, it's like very clear early on that Jane is a main character in this movie. And we already knew this going in, that she would, like, basically, if people have read the comics from several years ago, that she would become a new Thor in this movie. Do you remember when that was a thing?
Oh yeah, like I never read the Thor comics, but back when that happened, like in Jason Aaron's run, I believe it was, like it was a huge thing. Like people were confused, thinking like, wait, if Thor is turning into a woman, or it was like, no, a woman is becoming the new Thor, and like later finding out that it's Jane Foster, it was like, huh, how did this happen? And yeah, I still have not read those comics. I do want to eventually.
Oh yeah, me too. Because, you know, Jason Aaron, he's written the 2015 line of Star Wars comics, or like a huge chunk of it anyway, for a couple years, and it started off really strong, but then kind of went off the rails after the, like, from Vader Down onward. Like, it would just keep decreasing in quality, and then it ended just fine. Like, it was really weird. But anyway, I've heard good things about his Thor run.
Oh yeah, me too. Like if I ever get Marvel Unlimited, I feel like the first things, like the first comic series that I would try to get into are his Thor run, and also J. Michael Straczynski's Thor run. He has a story by credit on the first Thor movie, and he even had a cameo in that as one of the people trying to lift the hammer. And you know, he's creator of Babylon 5, a favorite sci-fi show ever.
Oh yeah, it's my favorite too. Yeah, so like those two, and Straczynski's Spider-Man run as well. Like those would be the first three comic series that I would try getting into if I ever get Marvel Unlimited. But right now I already have so much I'm reading on DC Universe, so I'm pretty covered for now. Yeah, so maybe once you run out of things to read, which could be never.
Yeah, we'll see.
Jane gets a visit from Thor, and the Guardians stay out in the hallway, and, you know, Thor is being like, I'm here if you need me here, and she's like, she basically is trying to say that he's not obligated to be, like, she appreciates his company, but he's not obligated to be there because, you know, he has his own things that he's doing. And then Thor is like reflecting on where he is, because it's pretty much like he's just having fun in space with his friends. But, like, you know, it's kind of a weird transition from where we last saw him in Endgame, because it's like, yeah, they're out in space and now they're back and then they're leaving again.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's really back and forth, kind of mood whiplash type of thing. But that being said, the acting between Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman is just, like, it's very convincing, their relationship and all the stuff they've been through. Like, you can imagine a history between them off screen in this movie especially.
Yeah. But then Thor hears from Valkyrie that there's been there's been an attack on New Asgard. And we see this scene where like this villain attacks the actors who played Thor, Odin, and Loki in Ragnarok. So you got Luke Hemsworth, Sam Neill, and Matt Damon. And we even have Melissa McCarthy as Hela, and Ben Falcone plays like her character's husband slash manager. Apparently it's like they're married in real life apparently, but basically this villain played by Christian Bale, known as Gorr the God Butcher, he attacks them thinking that they're like actual Thor and Loki, and just like he kills these actors. It's just like, whoa, that's really mean.
Yeah, these actors were in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's really unfortunate because you have a good acting gig and then all of a sudden, poof. I guess you gotta be careful what roles you pick.
Yeah, definitely. He goes back out into space trying to look for more gods to kill. And so by the time Thor meets up with Valkyrie, she like fills him in, and she like relays the villain monologue that he presented, where basically he tells his life story of how like when he was a child, because he's like this alien type dude, kind of reminds me of Twi'leks from Star Wars. But
Yeah, I totally get those vibes too. And like he talks about how his people suffered famine and war, and he lost his family, like his parents got killed, and like there was like an emphasis in his culture on trusting in the gods. And then he going through all the things that he went through, it's like, where are the gods now? And like in the flashback we see one god, I think his name is Null or something. It's something from the comics, and like he like sees him like really weak in the desert, like after some fight, and like he has this sword which is called Albrecht the Necro Sword, and he basically like just takes the sword and kills him, and like he uses it as his own. And so he's been traveling, like he's even like somehow gone to other timelines. That's something I was confused about.
yeah, I wasn't sure if it was the multiverse stuff that's like going on with Loki, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and whatnot. But yeah, somehow he went to other universes and killed other Thors. And like we see him even fighting a keyboardist Thor played by Rick Wakeman, and who played Thor in that 70s film Listomania.
Oh yeah, Rick Wakeman, who's best known as one of many keyboardists for our favorite band, Yes. Check out Yes Shift, the podcast we do with
Our dad. Yeah. I'm really glad the Rick Wakeman Thor was able to escape from him. Like, I feel like he probably wouldn't have agreed to do it if he didn't survive.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it was a nice cameo. I loved it. And he looked really cool with the cape, too, I guess. Like, he looked very similar to his Listomania appearance, but he also had, like, one of those capes that he sometimes wears on stage. But yeah, now we got Thor, the Guardians, Lady Sif, Valkyrie, and even the Ravagers. Like, they band together to try to look for Gorr the God Butcher. We also have Drax being really confused, like mixing the names Thor and Gorr. It's that whole thing where he's like, wait, Thor? And they'd be like, no, Gorr. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, an annoying little back and forth. Like they really like to make Drax dumber as the series goes on, I guess. It gets really annoying, but I mean, the audiences seem to respond to it pretty well, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
I mean, yeah, unfortunately, like it gets old hat.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, they hop planet to planet trying to get info from people who might know where he is. They even see Jeff Goldblum's character, the the Grand Master, who's pretty much become like this dunking person at a carnival, you know, where you hit the target and he falls in the water, and like he pretty much guides them in the direction, like saying that he heard word that Gorr killed Zeus, who in this movie is played by Russell Crowe. And like we get a really cool fight sequence between Russell Crowe's Zeus and Gorr. Like, you know, there's lightning everywhere, and you know, it's really funny, like Russell Crowe being Jor-El in Man of Steel and whatnot, and so seeing him here, it's like, you know, it's like the crossing of the comic book realities, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, by this point, there are a bunch of actors who have been in both Marvel and DC, so it didn't really faze me that he was in here, but I thought it was really cool that they got him to play Zeus. And I was actually surprised that Gorr was able to kill him, but I guess he got really show that credibility that he has as a villain, you know, being able to slay this really powerful god. And like, I wasn't sure like what other gods they put in this movie, but like this one was like, yeah, it was pretty brutal death. Like he just stabbed him through the chest and then the stomach, like, and obviously it doesn't look as violent because it's PG-13 and you gotta appeal to the masses, but it still feels like you can see the pain in Russell Crowe's face. Like it's very believable.
Yeah, I totally agree. Also forgot to mention that Jenny Morris and Simon Russell Beale play these minstrels who are like at one of these locations like during their search, and it's like really funny. But when they finally get to Gorr on like some ice planet, he basically does like another villain monologue, and like you know, the Guardians see this as an opportunity to like get him while he's distracted, but then he's like, haha, I knew you would think I was distracted. He like almost kills like Mantis and Drax, and it's like, whoa, how many more movies do these characters have, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I personally was not worried for them, because like as much as we've seen Gorr kill really powerful gods so far, like I didn't expect him to really touch any of these mainstays. Like it was just like it felt kind of by the numbers. Like once he fights the main characters, it feels like the playing field is leveled, and so it's I don't know, like he displays a lot of power. Like, you know, he's like, I don't know if this is a thing he does in the comics, but whenever he kills a god, the sword absorbs like powers that those gods are equipped with. So like, for example, killing Zeus and like other Thors or whatever will give him like make him able to shoot lightning from his sword.
Yeah, it's pretty much like the Thundercats thing, right?
Oh yeah, like Quill even mentions that he's like, what are you, a Thundercat? Roar!
Yeah. I really loved the rebooted Thundercats from, I think, was it 2011 or something?
Yeah, that one was really cool.
You know, it's the Marvel thing where they make a joke out of the villain, and the characters make a joke of him, but he still shows how powerful he can be, and there's even this moment where he has a vision of a weapon, and it's like, it's called a god bomb, and it's something that can destroy gods across different timelines and realities and stuff. It's like, whoa, if he gets a hold of this, like, what could happen? And so I guess that's what he's searching for now.
We should also mention that Groot at this point has pretty much become maybe not fully grown Groot, but he's like young adult-ish Groot. Like he's not teen Groot. Like he seems like he could be in his 20s at least. Like he's still youthful, but he's more mature than before, which is refreshing because I was tired of teen Groot.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, and so there's this all-out fight, like pretty much everyone against Gorr, and he's able to hold his ground pretty well. But we should mention that before and after the snap, Jane was helping out a lot of people, especially after the snap, like helping out people who felt displaced or needed some like psychological help. Like she was going all out trying to like refer people to places and like trying to make people feel better. And so she's remembering all this stuff while she's taking her cancer treatment and like reflecting on her life and whatnot. And then again, I don't know how it happens in the comics, but there's kind of like this moment when like Thor is fighting Gorr, and Gorr kind of has the upper hand, and Thor is like wondering whether he's still worthy, and he's like, no, I am worthy, but I'm not the only worthy person, and Mjolnir can attest to that. And so it's like I don't know if Thor is giving Mjolnir permission or if Mjolnir was always going to do this, but basically like flies back to Earth at like super quick speed and like lands in Jane's hands, and basically like I'm still not clear about whether it cures her, but she sure seems fine once she wields the hammer and like gets the new armor outfit thing and becomes the new Thor, and she like flies over to the battle and starts like fighting, like giving everyone aid. And it's like, whoa, Gorr is facing two Thors now. One has Mjolnir, the other has Stormbreaker, and it's like, yeah, like this is a pretty epic scene.
Yeah, and it was set to the song Rainbow in the Dark by Dio. Like that was a pretty hype moment, I agree.
Yeah, so some of the music in this movie is pretty on point. Like they do like to throw in the hits, but the hits that they throw in are pretty good.
Yeah, like we got Limelight by Rush in there somewhere. Even Shock the Monkey by Peter Gabriel for some reason.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
But it was really cool when that Rush song Trees came on and like Groot was just like going nuts. It was amazing.
Yeah, and Nebula was pretty bonkers in this movie too. Like she would just like go all out when fighting. It was like she was relentless, like really able to hold her own.
Yeah, I feel like all of the side characters get their moment to shine, and it's really satisfying. Like the Marvel movies know how to do this pretty well for the most part, like give everyone their moment. And Jane pretty much has lots of moments from here on out. Like, Gorr retreats and everyone regroups, and so they're trying to like find him again. And they try to investigate, find all these different places, and there's like this weird place that is like, it almost looks like a comic book store, but it has a lot of ancient looking books. And the clerk of this store, I guess, he's played by Kevin Smith.
Oh yeah, the Silent Bob himself. Like he had to be in one of these movies at some point, right?
Yeah, it was just inevitable. Like, I mean, I guess I associate him more with DC stuff, but it was really cool seeing him here.
Yeah, and there's also a witch who was played by Blake Lively. I guess they really wanted her in there because, you know, her and Ryan Reynolds are a thing. And, like, she sees in her crystal ball that Korg will someday hang out with Deadpool. So that was a nice little Easter egg, and I guess also a little tip of the hat to that Korg and Deadpool commercial.
Yeah, that was some good marketing around the time of Free Guy. Both versions, I guess. Like, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, and having Taika in that movie, like, that's, in my universe, Free Guy is one of my top movies of this year. It's just such a feel-good movie.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm often curious, like, I'm sure the listeners are often curious, like, what you think of the movies over there compared to how they're described here.
Well, it's weird because Halloween Ends feels, well, the one you described feels like it could be a sequel to both Halloween Kills in my universe and your universe. Like, just maybe minor details here and there change, but yeah, that's weird. And the second and third escape room movies of your universe, like, it feels like the settings would be kind of flipped where I am. And also, like, Escape Room Tournament of Champions was the name of the second one where I am. They should have called it Tournament of Champions with the number 2 in there.
Yeah, I agree. Like, they should have just shoved the number in there.
Yeah, and you know, Halloween Kills sounds pretty cool for you all over there, but over here it was like meh. I was pretty disappointed by the ending, and it just, yeah. So I hope I enjoy the Halloween Ends whenever it comes out, hopefully next year. But anyway, getting back to Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah. So
Jane talks to Thor about like what it's like having these powers and how it feels like a huge responsibility, and Thor is like rooting her on, being like, you are very capable, like I've known you, like, I've seen you on and off, and I know from all the times I've seen you that you are a hero and you can do this. And it's like, so it's such a fist bump moment.
yeah, and it's, you know, seeing Natalie Portman after all these years, it's that weird Marvel thing where it would feel like they either didn't know what to do with the love interest, or the love interest actress would stop being interested. Like, we thought that for a while with Pepper Potts, Gwyneth Paltrow kind of disappearing after Iron Man 3, and then surprisingly coming back in Spider-Man Homecoming and a couple movies after. So that was a cool surprise, and I guess Taika Waititi was really able to sell Natalie Portman on being in Thor: Love and Thunder, because it was probably like this promise that she could be on equal footing with Thor. Like, this feels very much like it's not just Thor's movie, it's also Jane's movie. Like, it's the two of them, and you know that they have hints of the possibility of rekindling a romance here and there, but it's like the movie is not just the romance, it's them working together with these other people and trying to take down Gorr the God Butcher.
Yeah, it's finely tuned all around. And there's like this funny moment where they tried tricking Gorr the God Butcher by using this 3D, it's like this giant like space 3D printer where it prints out a copy of Thor, and so they use that to lure Gorr. I have to be careful how I pronounce the names, and Gorr like goes to it and attacks it, and that's when like everyone ambushes him.
Yeah, the giant 3D printer was silly, but I mean, whatever. I was okay with it, I guess.
Yeah, and they end up fighting in this giant aquarium as well with, oh yeah, there's always a bigger fish, like lots of shark-looking things and very alien and exotic. Like, they do a really good job making these look out of this world, like all these giant fish or giant sharks or sharp-teeth creatures or whatever.
Yeah, and the CGI looks so good that they look like actual animals. Like sometimes the CGI in Marvel movies can be a bit dodgy, but looked pretty cool here. Oh yeah, definitely. And so they're like hopping from fish to fish and like on the surface of the water in this giant aquarium. And all this time I was like, oh, I bet if lightning shot the water, it would be super effective.
Oh yeah, because Pokemon, right?
Yeah, that was a joke. And there's this giant frog that like eats them, and so they're like fighting their way out, and it's like, well, this movie is absolutely bonkers. It really does feel like Taika was trying to figure out what insane things he could put in this. But but they get out of the giant frog and like continue fighting, and like Jane and Thor are fighting Gorr like in this aerial battle now. And I admit, I feel like the fight sequence at the end felt like it was going on too long. So I was really wanting it to wrap up real quick.
Okay, yeah, so it wasn't just me. I was like feeling that as well.
Yeah, but there's this moment where they do this awesome like combo where like, you know, it's basically like baseball, you know, like one of them throws Gorr at the other and it's like batter up, like hitting him back and forth, and it's like Gorr by the end of this turns into kind of a joke. To like the designer's credit, he still looks very scary and threatening. It's just that in the situation he's kind of turned into a punching bag.
Yeah, I honestly wasn't sure what to think of this, and like, you know, all of their allies have a go at him, and basically he gets thrown into this thing that looks like a black hole, and so like it's a really weird choice where like when he goes into it he's like stretching, and like we even see him turn literally into spaghetti and meatballs. It was so utterly ridiculous. Like, yeah, spaghettification. It was wild. And so it, like, in this moment, I felt kind of disappointed because I was like, wait, is he actually dead? Like, are they doing the thing where they waste a really interesting villain? And I felt like that for a long time during this, like, epilogue when they're, like, all celebrating and like listening to music, like Don't Stop Believin' by Journey was playing, and Come Sail Away and Fooling Yourself by Styx. It was just like what?
Yeah, and we'll get there. Like they're celebrating and Jane is feeling really good about herself, so I don't know, maybe she is cured. It's clear that she's gonna have her own adventures, and Thor is gonna be in the next Guardians movie whenever that comes out. Like they go their separate ways, but they like do a kiss at the end.
Yeah, I guess if you have love in the title, there has to be a kiss, right?
Yeah. And I'm kind of confused about it. I wasn't sure if it's a parting kiss or if it's like this is goodbye or for old time's sake, or if it's like maybe this will be the start of something again, like maybe they'll get back together. I was kind of confused about that.
Yeah, I get the feeling that Marvel is trying to see what the fan reaction is to it, because they haven't really touched the Thor and Jane relationship since 2013, really. I mean, I know there was a brief mention in Age of Ultron, but Thor the Dark World was like the last time we saw them together, like actually, like on the screen. And so it's been several years, and I guess they're trying to get a feel of how the fans are feeling about the whole thing and using that to decide which way they want to roll with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess they don't want to back themselves into a corner and just kind of want to figure it out later, which has its pros and cons, I guess.
Yeah. So we got Thunderstruck by AC/DC playing through the credits. And then we get this scene where Gorr emerges out of the black hole. Like we see spaghetti coming out, like it's coming out of another end of the black hole, and then it fully creates the shape of his body, and then he looks like his normal self, like it sort of does a crossfade there. It was a really weird effect. But he emerges, and he emerges at the location of the God Bomb. You know, it's this huge round weapon, and that's when he has like a really sly smile, and it's like, uh-oh, what's he gonna do now?
Yeah, I wonder how long later this is. Like, how long has he been through that black hole, or I guess wormhole, or whatever it is?
Yeah, like it must be some time, because I imagine this is probably a big thing that'll play into like future storytelling. Like maybe he's the next big bad, or like one of them anyway. So yeah, I'm curious to see what they do with this.
Yeah. And we also have that scene after the credits.
Oh yeah, when Thor and the Guardians are in like a space traffic jam, like lots of ships in a route or whatever, and Thor is like, why don't you just fly above or below? And they're like, no, that's against the rules. And they've also got like a song playing, like it's that Gary Newman song In My Car. You know, Thor has an iPod connected to the ship's stereo thing or whatever, and Quill is trying to argue that his Zune is better, and Thor is like, I've been on Earth more recently than you have, like you don't know what's better. It's like that little company rivalry there, like iPod versus Zune, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, you kind of expect the big tease to be the mid-credit scene and just some random funny gag at the very end with some of these things, and that's very much what we got. Do you want to do final scores?
So this was a fun movie. I loved the aesthetic. I loved the music. Like, we didn't even talk much about the music, but the song choices were on point for the most part. The score could have been a bit more memorable, maybe. I did love that during Rick Wakeman's cameo, he does like a little solo on his keys. He's like, it was like really cool. But yeah, overall the aesthetic of the film was pretty good. It was definitely more in the vein of Ragnarok than the first two movies. I kind of go back and forth on whether I prefer this over Ragnarok. I feel like it might be slightly over, but yeah, anyway, I think I'd rate Thor Love and Thunder 8.5 out of 10 Mjolnirs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say 8.5 out of 10 Stormbreakers, and pretty much your thoughts were like the same as mine. Like, yeah, I do think I prefer it slightly over Ragnarok.
Okay, so then we're in agreement.
Yeah, and I guess I'll do it. Thanks for joining me again, Steven, and also happy birthday, with November 6th being our birthday for both of us.
Oh yeah, happy birthday to you too, man.
Thanks. And as always, you can email delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com about music, Thor, space, or whatever. We actually got a couple emails. Shall we read them?
Oh yeah, let's go ahead.
All right, so this one is from Oliver Titcombe. I think it's the one from your universe. I'll just go ahead and read it. Dear Delayed Replay Steven, I just listened to your episode on Escape Room 3. Really enjoy the podcast. Keep up the good work. Many listeners may not know, but there is a film-based social media called Letterboxd, where you can review films you've seen and give it a star rating. One other thing you can do is create a list of films. I'm such a massive fan of the podcast that I've created a list of films for each episode of Delayed Replay. I've even added notes to each film saying when the film was delayed from, when the episode was released, and when the film was released. I've mentioned it to other Stevens, so he might have mentioned it to you, but the listeners probably won't know about it yet. I can't wait to see what future episodes entail, and I can't wait for your next book. Oliver Titcomb from that other universe, not the one who recorded the old episode. Alright, yeah, well thanks for that clarification. Yeah, I had one of these Olivers on the episode on that movie Old, but yeah, this is the one from your universe, Steven.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're both on Discord and whatnot, yeah. Letterboxd is really fun. I love giving star ratings and arguing about them with my friends.
Oh, well, that sounds like a riot. We also have this more recent email from him that came like a week later, so I'll read it. Dear Delayed Replay Steven, I realize that each calendar year is a different series of Delayed Replay. Is this intentional or an interesting coincidence? If it's the former, are you doing a Christmas special like you did with the episode Dune December? Can't wait to find out. Keep up the good work. Oliver Titcomb from that other universe, or the movies you reviewed got delayed. Yeah, so good questions, Oliver. Making the season align with the year, it was a conscious choice that I made. Like, it was just, you know, with TV shows, you have a season like several months, like toward the end of one year, like into the beginning of the next or whatever. Some people measure seasons by episode number. I know some podcasts divide their episodes into seasons and they have different ways of doing them. The way I'm doing mine is season 1 is just during the first year of the podcast, so that's any of the 2020 episodes, and any of the 2021 episodes are season 2. It just felt cleaner that way to me. And as for your Christmas special question, I know we'll still be putting out episodes consistently, like on a weekly basis to the end of the year. One of the episodes will come out like near or around Christmas, I'm sure. Like, you know, like during the last couple weeks of the year, it'll be the holidays and there will still be episodes coming out. I'm not sure that I would label them holiday specials per se. But that being said, there will be something in the near future that has holiday special in the title. Just putting that out there as a little hint. And as for like the special thing, like for season 1, I was pretty much just trying to keep the numbering to just the movies, because early in that season, I really wanted No Time to Die to be episode 7 because 007 and whatever. And so when it came to doing the first video game episode before that, I thought to myself, okay, since it's a different medium, we'll just call it video game special. And you have like all these other things in season 1 labeled like novel special and stuff like that. But for season 2, I think keeping the episode numbers for any of them is fine. Last year, it was just a matter of me wanting certain topics have certain numbers, like Soul being episode 22 because there's a character named 22, and Eternals being episode 26 because it came out the day I turned 26. But season 2, I didn't really need to like worry about any of that, or didn't really care about it as much. Yeah, all that being said, the next episode, in fact, I'm going to say right now, it's going to be The Mandalorian, an original novel. And it'll still have like episode number. It won't be labeled like novel special this time around. You have any thoughts on that, other Steven?
No, not really. I think you covered it pretty well. No, but it's cool that you get emails every now and then. It just makes things more interesting hearing from the listeners from time to time.
Yeah, and I really appreciate it. So thanks, Oliver, for sending in those emails.
You cover like lots of things on this podcast, Steven, and like that weird K9 movie episode. Okay, so I don't know if it's the same in your world, but in my world, like I just found out that Bob Baker, who worked on K9, passed away.
Oh yeah, that's really unfortunate. Yeah, and I hope that people know that any remarks, like jokes that may have been made on the K9 movie episode were like all in good fun and not really meant to be mean jabs or whatever. I'm sure that people who know the show know that, but just putting that out there. Yeah, so condolences to Bob Baker's friends and family and like anyone close to him. Yeah, I guess it's just a little reminder that we joke around on the show, but we do care about the people who pass away. And, you know, Bob Baker made good contributions in Doctor Who and whatnot. So yeah, gone but not forgotten. All right, so thanks again for joining me, Stephen. Find Yes Shift, the podcast that I do with my dad, at anchor.fm/yesshift. You can find all the platforms that's on. Also go to facebook.com/yesshift. And you could go to stevenshinder.com for info on my book, Lemons Will Make Rain. It's available on Amazon. More info to come on the next book when it's nearer to coming out. And you can follow me at Steven Shinder, Twitter and Instagram, Steven Shinder Storytelling on Facebook. Yeah, I guess that'll do it for this episode of Delayed Replay. Do you want to say it this time?
Oh, yeah, I will. Without further delay, have a good day.